Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Terri Talks Movies. I'm your host, Terri Lee Chandler, and today my guest and I will be talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, streaming right now on Disney Plus. So hopefully you all have seen it. If you haven't, you're missing out. Now, my guests are Rob, Pickle, Wlasuk, and Doug Cloutier. Both Pickle and Doug are certifiable, yes, certifiable MCU super fans. Welcome, super fans.
Hey, Terry, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Now, before we dig into the MCU, I just want everybody to know just how happy I am to have both of you here because as much as I love Captain America and Thor, the Falcon, the Winter Soldier, and all of those characters, I just cannot call myself a super fan because I don't know as much as you guys. So I'm so happy to have you here so you can tell us all about it, break it down. And before we get started, I want everybody to know, because they know so much more than me, they're going to be doing most of the talking. So I came prepared. I love popcorn, so I'm going to kick back, relax, and dig into the popcorn.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so here we go. So first of all, for people that might want to know, what does it take to be a super fan?
I think what it takes to be a super fan is actually caring about the characters, getting to know their story, and the better the character, the more relatable they are. And if you can relate to a character on some level, to me, that kind of is what makes a super fan. That's really what gets you hooked in on it. And that's what I think makes a super fan.
What about you, Doug?
Yeah, I would agree. I used to always try to find something that I could relate to with the different characters, growing up. And I would dive into almost any book that had a different character, something new for me. And I would learn the backstory and I just would always want to know more. So I guess being a super fan means always want to know more about what they show you.
Oh, great. Okay. So now let's get started because I know what people are talking about now, especially fans of the MCU, is this Disney streaming show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And there were so many surprises in there. And so I just want to let everybody know that this could qualify as a spoiler alert. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to just don't turn us off, but turn it down for like a minute.
Well, it's been a week, so if you haven't watched it, I think a week for something on streaming for a week. I think it's your fault for not watching it by now.
Exactly.
Good point. Yep. Good point. So what started out, as we all know, as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there was a big shocker at the end. But before we get to that ending, let's start from the beginning and tell us what you all thought of the series.
I thought this series was fantastic. The first one that they did, WandaVision, I wasn't sure about that one, but then when the show developed, WandaVision that is, I was like, wow, what is Disney Plus doing? What is Marvel doing? And because WandaVision was just outstanding. And I was a little disappointed to find out that Falcon Winter Soldier was only going to be 6 episodes. But once everything was said and done, I'm like, wow, they fit so much into these 6 episodes, but I don't feel like they left anything out. I don't think anything was drawn out. I really thought that the TV series for the 6th episode was done absolutely amazing. And I don't think really from my standpoint, I think it's perfect leading into the next stage of the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like watching a 6-hour Marvel movie. Every week was something new. And I'll go back to what you said about WandaVision. WandaVision started really, really slow for me. Mm-hmm. And it really was hard for me to get into the first couple episodes, and it kept telling you to wait. Whereas Falcon and Winter Soldier just jumped right into the action. I mean, the opening sequence was just, I thought I turned it on like 10 minutes into it on accident. And I was blown away by the whole series. It was great.
I felt the same way, Doug, because Pickle had to convince me to watch WandaVision because I started watching it and I'm like, oh, it's black and white. I'm kind of bored. And then he said, no, trust me, keep going, keep watching it. And I was so glad I did. But also I have to agree with you as far as that opening episode on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, I was blown away by that chase scene.
Yeah.
That
And
chase
it
scene
started so fast. You go, yep. I'm sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that opening chase scene was something you would see in like an action scene in the middle of most movies, and they really came out guns blazing in that one. And you think, oh, how can they top that? And Doug, I think you may agree, like they topped it every episode.
Absolutely. It was I mean, the overall, these characters were somewhat perimeter characters in the movies. I mean, they were always there, but they weren't like the forefront of the movie. So when they announced the series, people were like really kind of doubting it, as it wasn't going to be able to keep up with the movies and the pace. And they jumped right into it, and they showed they were going to, and it just got better from there. It did slow down a little bit with, like I said, compared to WandaVision, they kind of started fast and they went into the story, but every episode had a huge payoff. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. And you know what? Speaking of payoffs, Pickle, tell me, I mean, one of the things you kept asking me every episode, did you catch the Easter egg? And I'm like, no, I didn't. And I was always feeling so bad and like unqualified because I didn't catch the Easter egg. So what are some of the Easter eggs that I missed and some of the other people may have missed?
Well, so I am an MCU fan. So I don't know like every single little Easter egg. That Doug will probably know way more Easter eggs than I will. I'm going to admit that right now. But some of the ones I did catch, it was like little things how both Bucky and Captain America both had lists. Like Captain America had to do the checklist to figure out what he had to catch up on in pop culture, where Bucky had his list of people who he had to apologize to. There was the Easter egg where Bucky jumped on the airplane without a parachute. Captain America did the same thing, and I think it was Avengers, maybe. I can't remember. That's when he did it. And then like going more to the comics, Torres, and I do believe he in the comics becomes Falcon after Falcon becomes Captain America. Doug, is that
stole
correct?
one of my first ones, Rob. Come on, man.
And so those are some of the ones I have. Doug, I mean, you go ahead because I know you probably have way more than I do.
So I absolutely love the story of Isaiah Bradley. And from what I read and what the comics that I've read, he wasn't really a character in the comics, but I think they took him off a character called William Burnstone. I could be wrong. There might be some Cap fans out there that jump on me, but there's a lot of backstory to those characters. And the best thing about that is his grandson being introduced kind of as a perimeter. He ends up becoming Patriot as a youth Avenger in the comics. He's actually a big piece. So by them just showing him and the foreshadowing, and they've actually signed the actor to 4 or 5 movies or series obligations. So they've got planning ahead, and they have a Hawkeye series coming out later on where Hawkeye's daughter becomes the new Hawkeye and he becomes her best friend in the comics. So they have a lot of different things, but the biggest, what I would consider the biggest Easter egg for me, which was kind of a really small one, if you catch it, I watch the after credits in every episode hoping to see something happen. And they actually have the date listed from December of, I think it was December of 1982 or whatnot it was, or 81, that is the date that the Winter Soldier killed the Stark parents. Oh. And they put that in a credit sequence and no one caught that. But if you watch the sequence, they highlight that date. And it was kind of a foreshadowing that was on his list as well. The Stark family, he killed Tony Stark's parents, and spoiler alert, that was in movies, but they put that date out there. And if you watch the end credits, I guess there's a whole bunch of different names that flash in the screen that you have to kind of go back. They want you to go back and watch it for its new characters coming forward into the future of the MCU.
Wow.
But that date was on there 2 or 3 different times I saw it. So,
well, I'm going to have to go back and watch it all over again. I did rewatch a little bit of the first episode, a little bit of the second episode, and I want to impress everyone with a little bit of my knowledge. I watched part of The Winter Soldier last night, the movie, and that's when he jumped out of the plane without his parachute. And the guy said, "Did he jump out without a parachute?" And he said, "Yes, he did."
He
that was Captain America. So I know a little bit, not as much as you guys though. But now, what about Don Cheadle? Wasn't that a surprise to see him show up in episode number 1?
Yes, when I saw him show up, I was shocked. I didn't think they'd bring in a big name character. I mean, Brody in the comics was, especially in the first Iron Man movie, obviously was a big role. Got recasted to Don Cheadle. So Don Cheadle just being as big of a name as an actor as he is, I was very surprised that they brought him in for that little segment of the movie, the TV show he was in. And I really thought that was going to lay groundwork for, I was hoping that you're going to see Chris Evans come back in one of the final episodes. And I thought that was leading up to, but yeah, a lot of people showed up in this TV series.
Yeah. A lot.
That was Chris Evans being on the episode. Well, the last episode was rumored for months and months, and he kept saying he wouldn't be. And they went as far as announcing he would be in Captain America 4, and that's not going to happen. They Disney didn't do their best in terms of just dissuading people from believing that. So they wanted to be surprised, but they also, the one thing about Disney's been great is they haven't really advertised big stars being on these series. They just pop in and show up, and the other network shows might have said, hey, guest appearing tonight, Don Cheadle, and people tune in for it. But Disney just was like, we're going to put him there and see if it sticks and see what people say. I loved it. It was great.
Well, now,
Brody's awesome.
How surprised were you, Doug? I know Pickle and I talked about this already. So how surprised were you, Doug, when the Wakandans showed up?
Dora Milaje, she was and I'm drawing a blank on the actress's name that plays her, but she was actually Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther's bodyguard. They don't officially say that, but she shows up first when in Civil War when the bombing happens, and she's there. So she's been kind of a perimeter player. And that's what I was going to say about these shows. For me, it's awesome because a lot of the perimeter players and the bit players in the movies became bigger pieces to the puzzle in this series, and they were phenomenal in giving them. Even Zemo to me was like kind of a throwaway villain in the movie, but he was great. I loved him. It was you want to see more of him, and they did a great job with a lot of different characters. So it was awesome to see the Wakandans there, and I didn't expect it. It was great.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Zemo, I can't wait now to see. I just know he's gonna have to escape somehow. I mean, those Wakandans are so strong and powerful. You think that he could be there forever, but knowing Zemo, he's going to get out somehow.
I think he's going to have to get out because I do believe, wasn't that the same prison, Doug, that they held the people in at the end of Civil War?
Ironically, the same, they said that the same cell they used for him, Sam was in Civil War. So they said that was another Easter egg. If you go back and watch, and I haven't done that yet, but they say Zemo's cell at the raft it was a Sam's cell in Civil War.
So they're going to bust him out one way or another somehow.
Yeah. He's smart and rich, and those characters seem to always have the edge in comics over the people with superpowers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I love seeing them on that on his private plane when they busted him out of the prison, and he got on that private plane and they said, "Is that yours?" He said, "Well, I'm a Baron."
Yeah. The other little Easter egg, I don't know if Rob caught this or not, but his butler on the plane actually is the one that ends up blowing up the Flag Smashers.
Oh.
And people didn't catch that. If you watch it again, he drives the car with the bomb.
Wow.
They tied up. All the characters came back from Zemo, and he was involved in that. So
I think that's what's great about the MCU is that even in the movies, there's something that, hey, look over here. And then they say, now look over here. Now they're bringing this character from here. And they're playing some kind of significant role or something that just moves the story forward. And I think MCU just does an absolute fantastic job, and I really think they step up the bar as far as making movies.
I wonder, how do they keep up with all this? I'm sure they have researchers and tons of writers, but it's like coming from everywhere. Even Malcolm Spellman said, there's so much coming up, it's just mind-blowing.
Well, I remember
it's the first time in movie history that they've actually been able to keep the timeline like this, to where they've stuck to it since Iron Man 1, and they've tied all these pieces together, and it just they'll harken back to 15 movies ago, and the fans, they catch it. The people to see it for the first time might not be like, I remember being in, I can't remember which movie it was, but something happened and a bit player showed up, and the theater went nuts. And my friend was with me, had never seen the other Marvel movies, and he was like, "Why are you so excited about that?" And I was like, "Well, you're 15 pictures late, 15 movies late." So
doing all this, making this, all these movies into one. I mean, it is affecting Hollywood in a good way, because look at the King Kong Godzilla. Now they're supposed to be making a MonsterVerse. Universal a couple years ago tried doing the Dark Universe with the Mummy and Frankenstein and Dracula, and that's I don't think that's even happening anymore. But they really kind of changed everything, and I think it's for the good. I mean, the continuity, besides little things here and there, but the continuity seems to be pretty spot on.
Oh yeah. Now
There's even talks of like John Wick having its own universe. He has a TV show coming out for John Wick, and I don't want to get away from Marvel, but and then there was a movie out recently called Nobody, which was phenomenal, and people kept saying it was tied into John Wick, but it wasn't. But that's how everyone's thinking now, that these are all from the same movie universe, and Marvel's done that to Hollywood, I think.
mhm. Yeah, well then that could mean good things for Hollywood, because they were struggling before the pandemic, and now because of the pandemic they've been struggling for a long time. But so that might help improve their fortunes, by doing something.
Well, something I just read today, and it was like an opinion piece that somebody said that Endgame could be the last big blockbuster that we see for years because of the pandemic and everything. And I'm trying to think, like, has there been a mega blockbuster since Endgame? It's 2 years ago this week that it came out.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have F9 coming out pretty soon. I don't know if people are still ready to go in the theater yet, but that would have the potential in my mind to be a blockbuster. I know it's not an MCU movie, but that, and then of course, Tom Cruise fans, there's a couple of Tom Cruise movies, and then the Bond movie, which has been postponed, I think, to 2022 now. But getting back to MCU, what about Sharon Carter possibly being a Skrull? Do you think that's possible?
I didn't realize anything until you actually said something about that, Terry. So I'm going to have to turn this one over to Doug, see what he thinks about that.
So, in the comics, and what Marvel's done too is they have such a broad such a broad character base for all their characters, and they've been in different comics and done different things. I think what they've done is they've opened up the possibility of her, and I'm spoiler alert, in the comics, she actually is the one that kills Captain America.
Oh.
She assassinates Captain America, and in one of the series, the Death of Captain America series, she's taken over by the Skrulls, but she actually isn't a Skrull, but she actually kills Captain America, and it opens up a whole new. So they're kind of tying that in with Falcon and Winter Soldier. The original Cap is kind of out of the picture right now, but I'm thinking they're going to probably have her attempt to assassinate Sam in Captain America 4, and that's how they're leading to it. But her being a Skrull, I don't know. They could do that. I mean, with Sam Jackson, they just made him one in the Spider-Man movie, so it was they could do anything. But I think that they're going to go the other route. I think they're going to make her responsible for assassination attempts on Captain America. So that's my opinion.
Well, I hope so, because I don't want to see anything happen to him.
Yeah.
Even though we know that it's the movies and they can do whatever they want, they can find a way to bring him back,
Mm-hmm.
So now, speaking of Captain America, what do you guys think about John Walker's Captain America? It seems like he's the most hated guy out there.
I mean, to me, like when I first saw him, I felt like you had Steve Rogers, who he didn't choose to be Captain America. He was really born for it. Like, he was doing it for the right reasons. He sacrificed himself. He always gave it all. He never gave up. That was his whole MO in living. He just wanted to do things the right way. When I first met Walker, he was like, he wants to be Captain America to be Captain America, not for the right reasons, like to get the glory and like, oh, look at me, I'm a big hotshot now. That's the way I took when I first saw him.
I loved him. I thought it was great. I liked I was one of the only ones that kind of like, I love Chris Evans. He was perfect for Captain America. And it's probably, aside from Endgame and Infinity War and I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's my ultimate favorite, him and Deadpool. But the Captain America movies alone could stand alone and not be in the MCU. That's how good those movies are to me. So when they introduced this, all I could think about in the back of my head was bring back Chris Evans to fight him, because he becomes U.S. agent, which he did at the end of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and he's basically really violent in the comics. He is Captain America with no rules. He assassinates and kills, and so I kind of like the idea of a darker version of Captain America in the MCU, and then having no morals and just kind of fighting back and forth with the other heroes. They use him when they need him, and then he goes against them as well. So I liked him. I thought it was a great arc, and he's Kurt Russell's son. That's I don't know if you guys know that or not. Did you know that?
Yeah,
that's cool. So
well, now I could see that happening because we don't know what's going to happen, of course, but Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character is up to something. They tease that a little bit. So, I mean, which way do we know or think that might go?
Lady Hydra. She's like a really big villain. She's kind of an anti-hero. She goes back and forth in the comics, and she actually dates Nick Fury. That's her boyfriend in the comics periodically. I don't know how they're going to do that in the comics, or in the movies, but she's kind of a fence rider when it comes to like doing what's right and wrong. So she leads I'm really going to geek out here, I guess. She leads the Dark Avengers, and that's where U.S. Agent comes in, and they do a lot of different things with him. So it's some of the stuff Marvel won't do it for the movies because they get pretty violent, but I think she's going to be a big character moving forward. And she was a big surprise too. I didn't expect her. Marvel kept that pretty secret. That was pretty cool.
Now I have to ask you, Doug, do you have this big a room full of comics that you can keep up with all this?
So I drive my wife crazy with things that I collect. And the one thing I really haven't gotten back into was comic book collecting. I did when I was a kid. I had a lot of them. It started off with baseball cards, and then I went into comic books, and I've kind of always been this obsessive fan collector. Air Jordan tennis shoes is another thing that I kind of obsess over. So but I absolutely I've always just loved the Marvel more than DC. I like DC a lot too, but to answer your question, not yet. I have a lot of memorabilia that I've purchased, but my wife just doesn't. She's sitting in the next room listening to me talk, but I'm going to buy a lot of comics here soon, I would imagine. So my daughter's got to move out first. My kids are grown. My youngest daughter's got to move out. When that happens, her room's a comic room. That's from now on. So,
but Doug, the question is, do you have that?
I do not. See, the benefit you have over me is you have young sons that you can share this with, right? So that's awesome. So it's
pulling back the curtain a little bit. I'm doing this podcast for my kids' room.
That's awesome. Well, I could do it in the basement. I have all kinds of Marvel posters in my basement and movie posters, but I have a lot of different Marvel things. So my wife literally will buy me stuff and say, I feel like I'm shopping for a little kid, but here you go. And I get excited about it. She bought me a big Deadpool statue the one year, and I was like a little kid. So it's a good time to be a movie geek or a Marvel geek,
Well, it's good to have a wife like that. And Pickle, it's good to have family members that love the same things you love.
Yeah. Well, they all embrace it. They definitely, my daughters both. Well, I'm covered in Marvel tattoos too, so I don't know. So
I kind of saw that on your arm. Hold it up. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh my.
And I have the Incredible Hulk there, and I've got a bunch of them. So she tells me every time I get one, she goes, "You're like a little kid." So
see, Terri, he is the ultimate super fan.
Well, yeah, I see. Well, as long as if she loves you, and that's cool. I think that's cool. Yeah. Really good. Well, now we talked about that opening scene with the cheese scene and how they kept meeting the challenge every episode, but I don't think we talked about those fight scenes. I think those fight scenes were absolutely amazing as well.
Yeah, those fight scenes, I mean, those are something you see straight out of any kind of action movie. I mean, you could rival it to anything you see in Die Hard or any kind of movies like that, any Schwarzenegger movie, Stallone movie. And this is for a streaming service, and you would not expect to see something like that. Netflix has done a bang-up job of doing magnificent shows, but Disney Plus really hit it out of the park when it comes to action movies. And again, they set the bar really high for streaming shows going from here on out.
The fight between Bucky and New Cap and sure, I'm drawing a total blank now. That final fight scene that they had in the warehouse was just absolutely amazing. It was like you said, it was like shot for shot like a movie. It was just a Falcon, and when he comes in and he's going at it with both of them. It reminded me so much of Civil War. This way they shot it. It was like I said, it's like watching a movie every week. It was just awesome. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, and that's what Malcolm Spellman said in an interview I read. He said, this gives us a chance to get to know these characters so much by having a new episode. It's almost like watching a mini movie every single week. And speaking of every week, I think at first I was not very happy that they didn't release every episode at once. But then after I realized I was going to have to wait every week to see a new episode, I thought it was genius because it gets people to keep coming back every week.
Yeah, it makes you want to rewatch the things. What else did you miss? And when I was done watching an episode, I'd go online and see what other Easter eggs are there. I'd pick out a couple that I noticed and see if anybody else saw them, and then you go through and see what else there was. And so it makes you want to go back and watch them a couple times. And where if you watch everything all one day, you're just going to move right on to the next episode and maybe forget about going back and watching the previous episode where you may want to go back and look at something. But I think I do like having the shows come out once a week.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. I think one of my other, the Boys is another superhero movie that streams on Amazon, and I love the show. It's definitely not PG, but I mean it's a great show. But they stream all the episodes and you get to watch them all, and then it's like you wait for 8 or 9 months to see it, and then they're all done on a weekend. You're like, so I really did enjoy the week to week. It reminded me of like when Breaking Bad and Sopranos were on, and you were like, the anticipation sometimes made you wait 2 weeks for a new episode, and you just thought about it. And so I really enjoyed it. Like you said, Rob, I was able to go back and watch the episodes. I watch each episode 2 or 3 times, so it's because I missed a lot too, but I loved it. I did not mind. Some people complained about it. Well, then just wait till they're all shown and watch all 6 episodes in a weekend if you want to, but don't complain about spoilers, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can all do that now since we've all seen them all. We can all go back and rewatch it before the next series comes out. And Pickle, I know you're waiting for Loki.
Oh, I'm excited for Loki. I'm so excited for Loki, and excited for Hawkeye. I think they're filming She-Hulk. Who they just signed? The girl from Game of Thrones is signed on for something. I don't think they mentioned what she's signing on for.
Well, they're talking about her being Spider-Girl.
Okay, that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Loki. I'm really excited for Loki. I think that's going to be another fantastic series.
It's going to be. I'm going to wonder how they're going to do it. Black Widow comes out before Loki, and they're going to be streaming Black Widow. So they said that Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character was not supposed to show up until the movie Black Widow, but they introduced her now so she can show up in the movie. You're not, questioning things. But they say that movie really is what jumpstarts the next round of movies and Loki. But the big movie is Spider-Man in December. That's the next big blockbuster, in my opinion. I think if everyone gets vaccinated, everybody is allowed to go to the movies again, I think people will start venturing out at the holidays. And I really think that either Maverick is going to really, like you said, Tom Cruise, Maverick's going to be a big one. Fast and Furious has a huge fan following, so that might be a big one. But I think the biggest breakout movie of this year will be Spider-Man in December. And then making it a Christmas movie was ingenious. Everyone will be off on vacation to go see it. So
doesn't Thor come out before Spider-Man?
I thought Thor comes out next February. They updated the timeline today. So
okay.
Yeah, I thought Spider-Man, and then the big rumor of Spider-Man is all the characters coming back, and now actors are getting loose-lipped. Like William Dafoe just come out and said he's going to be in it for sure, and so it's about to get real geeky if you haven't. They're going to open what they call the multiverse. It's going to have all these movies tied together. It's going to be crazy.
Now, Doug, I just have to say, I love Spider-Man too, but show everybody your shirt. So everybody,
Spider-Man Deadpool.
Yeah, everybody needs to know that that's coming from the ultimate Spider-Man fan, that Spider-Man is going to be the #1 biggest blockbuster.
This year, I think it will be. I really do.
Yeah, well, I love Spider-Man too. I love them all, and I feel so inadequate that I don't know as much as you guys. I feel like I've been goofing off.
I guess I should have got a life a few years back, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we covered it all, unless we missed something. Did we miss anything that we need to let all these fans out here know about?
No, I think that was it. If you haven't watched Falcon Winter Soldier, and sorry for spoiling everything if you haven't watched it yet, but go watch it. And if you have seen it, go back and watch it again. Look for those Easter eggs. And again, this is just opening so much for the next round of MCU, and having everything on Disney Plus and going into movies and tying everything in. I think it's just a fantastic job. It's a great time to be a fan of these comic book movies.
What about you, Doug?
What I was going to say is Marvel's made it kind of much more acceptable. Like you got A-list actors. When you have Anthony Hopkins in a Marvel movie, and you have Oscar winners, people that they're not hurting for big roles, and they're migrating towards these movies. it's become the big nameplate in Hollywood. I mean, DC kind of flopped it a little bit. They have some big names in their movies. They took themselves way too serious, in my opinion, but Marvel is the template for everything. So I love it. And then you didn't talk about the biggest spoiler. You're going to talk about the name of the show changed at the end.
I was just about to say that because Pickle didn't mention it. And I was going to say, do we want to tell everybody that big spoiler?
It's out there now.
Yes.
All right. Well, Doug, you have the honor of doing it.
Well, it's Captain America and the Winter Soldier now. It's not, he's no longer the Falcon. So, and he was awesome. A friend of mine told me that was the first time in years that he jumped up out of his seat when he came in with the new suit on and landed. He said his wife was like, "What is wrong with you?" He said he was so excited about it. It was just an amazing moment. It was cool.
I love that too. But I just got to ask you guys, speaking of that costume, how do you like his costume as Captain America?
Fantastic.
I think headpiece with the glasses.
I mean, I think that's a throwback to his comic book character though, too, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah. He's actually, I think they're trying to throw back to Steve Rogers when he wore his goggles. It's his variation of those goggles. So I just think that he was the perfect casting. I can't believe that the guy from 8 Mile is the new Captain America, but Anthony Mackie's done phenomenal work. I love it. I'm looking forward to it. Now the big thing was they were saying it was only be a one season, but they're going to have a second season because there's only one season of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they can have Captain America and Winter Soldier second season. So our first season. So
and I think it's going to happen. I have to say this, in my opinion, out of all the characters and all the actors in the MCU, my opinion, I think Sebastian Stan is the most underrated actor in all these movies and TV shows.
I love him.
They were talking about him being up for an Emmy for a couple of the episodes, just the way that he's just great. I mean, that's what I'm saying. A lot of great actors. It used to be kind of, if you look up the old Nick Fury movie with, David Hasselhoff in it, that's what they used to think of like superhero movies, they were real, they weren't as serious as they are now. It's a much better time right now, but he was phenomenal. I agree with you 100%.
I think part of it could be that he's just so natural, and it's not like he's acting, he's just
right.
So normal and natural that he's so good at what he does, you don't even really notice it. Right. That could be it. But because I love him, I think he's a great character, and I'm glad he's there, and I hope he stays.
Joking about Sam's sister was pretty funny when they were going back and forth about that. I like that a lot.
There's going to be something there.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that was funny. I love that part.
Yeah.
It was something else I was going to bring up. Oh, do you guys know where Anthony Mackie went to college, where he studied acting?
I don't know this.
So surprised. He went to Juilliard.
I read that. I thought I'd read that somewhere a while back when he was in 8 Mile, because being from where we're from, we say we're from Detroit, but we're 15 miles south of Detroit. So but when he was in 8 Mile, they had said that about him. So he's been good in everything he's been in. I think he's a phenomenal actor. He's great.
Yes. I'm glad I'm glad they picked him to be in this MCU universe as well.
Yep.
But I just want to thank you guys for being here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think everyone listening not only enjoyed it, but learned a ton about the MCU. And we're going to have to come back and do this again, especially when some of these other shows like Loki and Hawkeye and all these other ones come out. I'd love to have you guys back.
Yeah, I'd be happy to be back on with you.
Love it. Thank you so much. This was a blast. I enjoyed it a lot.
Will Sherry let you come back, Doug?
Absolutely. She's going to tease me about it tonight, but she'll let me come back.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure, if you haven't watched the other episodes of Terri Talks Movies, that you do so, because you're missing out on a fun time, as evidenced by this episode. And make sure you invite all your friends and family and everyone else to join me for all the episodes of Terri Talks Movies. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Oops. Wait.
You just have your